Hello and welcome to our Reboot review. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we are discussing Season 3, Episode 1, To Mend and Defend. This episode originally aired August 20th, 1997 in Canada. So let's start off with the box office. I just want to pick out a few hit movies that came out prior to this episode.
Adios, adios.
So in January, we got this little movie. I'm pretty sure you've seen this one, Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yes. Yes, I have.
Very good. Uh, Also in January, Jerry Maguire came out, which that only spent 1 week as a top film in America. Wow.
Like, on the one hand, the name rings a bell, but it's like nothing I could specifically remember from the movie.
Show me the money. No? Okay.
Yeah, even that. Like, know the phrase, and it's like, okay, it comes from that, but like anything else, nada.
It's a football movie, so I wouldn't expect you to know it.
And it's one of those things. Again, there's a couple of football movies, but they have other reasons. Other goddamn reasons.
In February, the re-release of A New Hope,
Yes.
followed by the re-release of The Empire Strikes Back,
Yes.
followed by Private Parts. Which
What?
you're not familiar with Private Parts? It's the Howard Stern movie.
Okay, because you said private, and it's like save it, Prying Ryan sort of thing. But then you
No,
went
no.
on with the rest of the title, and it was just like, I do not know this movie. I don't know if I want to know this movie.
Which was followed by Return of the Jedi re-release.
Yeah, so you know, Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Liar Liar,
Yes, very much yes.
Anaconda,
Oh God, yes.
The Fifth Element.
Oh my God, yes.
The Fifth Element is a great movie.
Oh my gosh, it is.
The Lost World Jurassic Park,
Yes.
Con Air.
Um,
It's Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, John Malkovich. It's like a bunch of prisoners are being transported by air, by like a plane kind of thing. It's like an action movie on a plane, basically.
yeah, makes enough sense. Like with the couple particular settings that you could do, prisoner setting on a plane. Yeah, it makes sense. It would have been done at some point, I'm sure.
Oh, but the next one's an even better film, Dave. Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Yay!
You know,
Like I know it's a series, but it's just one of the series that I never got into. I'm sorry.
so the first Speed is a terrific film. Okay? Uh, um, Keanu Reeves has to like keep this bus driving around LA, otherwise, if it goes under like I think 50 miles per hour or something, it'll explode. Great film.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah.
thing is that it's like fast paced and it's really good. Speed 2 takes place on a cruise ship. The one exciting
You know,
element that Speed had, which was having to weave through traffic while maintaining speed, is completely lost in the sequel.
yeah, like it's understandable. Like what other objects are supposedly fast, and it's understandable that they probably would have gone in that direction, but it's also kind of a case of you lose some of the aspects from the first movie.
Yeah, the first one's great. I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it. But it was followed by an equally tremendous film, Dave.
Yeah, with Speed 2.
Batman and Robin.
Yes, yes.
Which was followed by a legitimately good movie called Face Off.
I can't remember exactly the name of the art or actors within that one, but I think one of them was uh tip of the tongue.
It's John
Um
Travolta and Nicolas Cage.
yes, those two.
I want to take his face off. Such a good
Like
movie.
I can't remember if it was John Travolta or uh, oh come on, tip of the tongue. But
Nicolas
anyway,
Cage.
Nicolas Cage, thank you. But supposedly one of them did the performance of a lifetime within that film.
They both kind of do, like legitimately, because they start the movie playing one character and then they basically have to do an imitation of the other person for the next part. It's great.
You know, typical acting exercise in theater, high school sort of setting, put into a big screen movie.
It's so good. It's so good. Which is followed by Men in Black, which also is a tremendous film.
Indeed.
And then we get this little movie called Air Force One, which I don't know if you're familiar with.
Like it's there, but I think it's another one of the it's on the shelf. I haven't seen it.
It's like it's another one of those action movies on a plane kind of thing. I remember it being
Mm.
quite good. It's a Harrison Ford movie.
Yeah.
Followed by Conspiracy Theory, which is a movie I do not remember. And finally, the movie that came out this week is a little film called Copland, which I don't expect many people to remember because it is not terribly memorable.
Yeah, I got nothing. Also kind of doesn't really fall within my wheelhouse.
No, no, I kind of figured it wouldn't. So for music, I'm gonna quickly go through some of the big hits that came out. Because there's like three. So early in the year, we had "Unbreak My Heart" by Tony Braxton, which was the
Like
top for like
like
8 weeks.
hints of there. Like supposedly there's a lyric or whatnot from the song that's like, oh, I vaguely know of that song, but most likely it's I don't know.
The next one you'll definitely know. It's this little song called "Wannabe" by the Spice Girls.
Yeah, this was the time. This was the
Oh,
time that I was introduced to mainstream music.
oh, it's gonna get even crazier, Dave. Following
No, I lived through that time, my dear friend. I completely understand.
following that, it's "Can't Nobody Hold Me Down" by Puff Daddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Following that is "Hypnotized" by the Notorious B.I.G.
I believe so.
You're not terribly familiar with the Notorious B.I.G.
Like I think it's there, but it's kind of a case of unless I hear it and it's like this is his music, it's like, oh my dear God. It's no mind-blowing moment in that case. It's most likely there, but it's dug deep in the brain.
Probably. Following that was a little song called "Bop" by Hanson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the top song for a good chunk of the year, and for when this episode airs, is "I'll Be Missing You" by Puff Daddy and Faith Evans,
No, that tracks. That tracks.
which was a tribute to the Notorious B.I.G. because, well,
The stuff happened.
there might have been a bit of a shooting. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's go to video games because by God was 97 my year.
Well, yeah, as it is, we'd have to go through 96 into 97. And from what I can recall and quickly looking into it, yeah, the thing happens. My dear friends, the thing happens.
Like just just up until this episode airs, I'm like, "Oh, well that's basically my childhood." Okay, let's get started. So, in early January, if you were on the PC, this game would later come out for the PlayStation, but it was just released on PC at the time. A little game called Diablo.
Yes.
At the end of January, if you had a PlayStation 1, you weren't left behind because you got Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, the beginning. The interesting beginning of the thingy.
And then in February, if you had an N64, you might have been feeling left out, but then Nintendo dropped this little game called Mario Kart 64.
Yeah. Yeah. My childhood.
And then at the end of February, if you had a PlayStation 1 or a Saturn, you could pick up Mega Man 8.
No, that tracks.
In March, if you had a PlayStation, you could pick up Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It's one of the cases of did not grow up with the series, but oh man, once you get into it, you are in.
At the end of March, if you're a PC gamer, you could pick up Need for Speed 2, which I believe was Porsche Unleashed. Was it? No, it's just Need for Speed 2. Okay. For some reason, I thought that one had a subtitle, but it did not. I
No, but
loved those games as
nevertheless,
a
Need
kid.
for Speed makes sense.
I loved those games as a kid, especially Need for Speed 3. Um,
Mm.
in April, if you're a PC gamer, you could pick up Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which is a great game.
Supposed yes. Surprisingly enough, it's never a video game series that I really got into, but nevertheless, super popular.
Yes. In June, if you had a Super Nintendo, you could pick up a little game called Harvest Moon.
The thingy, which I never touched on until my teen years.
Yes, I think this was the first one that came to North America. Or was the Game Boy one before this? I don't remember, but I feel like this is the first one to come to North America.
No, I believe so too. This one would probably be the first.
Um, Also in June, if you had a PlayStation, you could pick up a little game called Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yes, the thing that many a good amount of people very much enjoy and question why the heck it hasn't been remade or brought back in any sort of sense.
Oh my god. Less than a week later, if you're on PC and feeling left out, this little game called Dungeon Keeper was released. Have you ever
It
played Dungeon
supposedly
Keeper?
rings a bell, but I'm not sure if I'm getting it confused with something else.
Dungeon Keeper's a great game, um, in spite of it being a Peter Molyneux game. Um,
Yeah. That's probably why I know of it, and also probably the case of why I probably also forgot about it.
it's there was that time where Peter Molyneux actually made really good games
Yeah,
for like a
yeah,
couple of years.
yeah.
This was one of the really good games he made. At the end of June, if you had an N64 and you were starting to feel a little left out by every other system getting a bunch of bangers, Nintendo dropped Star Fox 64.
Yes, very much yes. Case of played the game before, wasn't too interested in the single player story, very much interested in the multiplayer aspect.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. In August, if you had a PlayStation 1 or Saturn, you could pick up Mega Man X4.
Yeah, that tracks. I'm not sure if that's starting to get into the very iffy area of the X series, or if it's like the still good, but on whole,
Um,
still never good series.
it received like really rave reviews from most places,
Mm,
or at least strong reviews, like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10.
yeah, up and around those ranges.
So it seemed like it was still quite well received. So
Mm.
the episode we're discussing aired on August 20th in Canada. I want to bring up two games that released less than a week later.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, yeah, we'll just do two. On August 25th, if you had an N64 and you were still kind of feeling left out, you could pick up this little game called GoldenEye.
Yeah, the thing happens. The thing happens.
Yeah, that makes up for pretty much everything. Also, if on August 26th, if GoldenEye wasn't your thing and you had a PlayStation 1, Saturn, or a PC, you could pick up Madden NFL 98.
Ah.
Because those games, this isn't really at like the time when Madden had become huge, but it was still pretty big.
Like there, it was one of the typical big sports names that you could really kind of mention within the video game scene.
Yeah, when we get to like PlayStation 2 ish, that's when Madden becomes like really big. And those games were
Yeah.
like legitimately good.
Hmm.
Anyway, let us get into the episode finally.
Yes, with the definite jump from a year hiatus coming from end of season two into season three.
Yeah, so season 2 ended for us, in Canada at least, on February 1st, 96. This episode airs in August 20th of 97. So there's like a year and a half gap there. But
Get some time, company from licking their wounds from supposedly being canceled and then coming back on with the next season.
yes. So Dot is now commander of the principal office with Bob gone. Enzo must prove himself as a guardian while Megabyte and Hexadecimal attack the principal office. Oh my god, this episode was. I adore this episode, Dave.
Yes, there
Be-
was a multitude of things.
because of the game. And we will get into the
Yes.
game soon. Um, there's one moment, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a fun little reference to THX 1138. One of the pilots says, "Well, you heard the little lady, single file. Proceed heading 1138, stay frosty."
Ah, yeah.
Yes, which THX 1138 is first movie that George Lucas ever directed, and
Uh,
it's interesting.
hmm.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, let's get into why everybody's here, because it's the game.
Yeah, one of the things definitely with the amount of time off to improve your craft, get some ideas of stories and other sorts of stuff, it never hurts to kind of come back with a bang. And oh man, did they ever!
Okay, so the Enzo and Dot get pulled into a zombie game, which for legal reasons is not the Evil Dead, but it's Evil Dead.
Pretty much either
Um,
homaging or giving tribute or reference to the series.
yes. So when rebooting, Enzo becomes Michael Jackson in Thriller, which I quite enjoyed.
Yes.
Dot becomes, now we disagreed on what we thought she was. I thought she was Elvira. You thought Morticia from the Addams Family,
Yes.
which I feel like could be either one. Although you did make a good point saying that they do play like the Addams Family music.
Yep, the slight opening lick. Probably maybe just enough little lines to stick it in your head like, oh, it's Adam's family, but not really for legal reasons.
The user is based on Ash in the Evil Dead movies, specifically Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, which is further alluded to when the user, having been killed, turns into a turns into a zombie and proclaims, "I'm dead before dawn." He
Yes.
also has a chainsaw for a hand, carries a shotgun, and says "groovy" a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's looking for the Necronomicon. It's not exactly subtle, but it's fun.
It's mostly the one way that they save itself. It's like he has to find a book. And it's like they don't say the name of it. They show it, but don't bring any sort of specific reference to it. So supposedly they could kind of skirt under the line a little bit, but yeah, whether or not there was any sort of issue with it, it wouldn't be surprising.
I feel like they probably wouldn't be, because I feel like Sam Raimi would be cool with it.
And it's one of those particular sorts of cases. Of course, there's always the case of either mentioning it to the specific holder of the license that you're homaging or whatnot, sort of letting them know in certain sort of cases, and making sure that it's not going to be an issue. The one thing I've thought with watching this particular episode that came to mind was cases with the songwriter Weird Al Yankovic whenever he makes a parody song off of another song.
Yeah, where he goes out of his way to get permission from the artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The chief of police being interviewed on TV. Did you get this reference? Because it's one that I'm like, maybe Dave's seen this movie, but I don't know.
To interview with that one.
Oh, don't you know?
Oh, yeah, with that particular character.
It's
I'm
Marge
sure I
Olmsted
saw it there, but
Gunderson
I'm
from
not sure I
Fargo.
remember its origins.
It's from Fargo. The she's she's like a deputy or something. It's Marge Olmsted Gunderson from Fargo.
Okay.
Fargo's a great movie. A homespun murder story. At one point in the episode, Dot asks what kind of sick creature would take place in playing a violent video game like the one that you're in, at which point they break the fourth wall and accusingly glare at the viewer.
Yeah.
Which I was like,
It's kind of one of those cases of whether or not it was a thing within their script write-up of like, you got to be sure to put in one of those important messages within the series to talk about this particular topic at the particular point in time, or if it was just kind of a case that everyone was kind of up on their high horse, oh man, these video games being bad and whatnot, and they were just kind of pointing fun at it with making that jab.
yeah, I think they were kind of taking the piss out of people who, like, actually believe that video games cause violence.
Hmm.
Yes. So Enzo and Dot are able to defeat the game, and seemingly every everything more or less goes back to the bad state it was in at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So what did you think of this
Again, from
episode?
the end of the last season 2 episode, say goodbye to the old status quo and welcome to the new status quo.
It's true. It's true. What did you think of this episode, Dave?
On the one hand, it's very nostalgic for me. Again, with watching it on TV and only getting so many newer episodes kind of coming out, either any time during Halloween or any sort of time when they're running through this series, always saw this episode and always had a blast seeing it, watching it, even with not understanding the references at the time, just with age and it not being within my wheelhouse of entertainment. But also with cases, especially with watching it now, seeing the other aspects that they were kind of working on or touching on within the episode and the story they wanted to work on telling, but also with knowing how some of the series goes, of how some of the things started up and with where they're going to be heading, and just the case of, ooh, things are going to be interesting and fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode specifically because of all the like stupid references and stuff that happen in the game,
Mhm.
mostly, and like getting the Fargo references in and stuff. I quite enjoyed this episode. It's one of the ones I've enjoyed the most, I think.
Mhm. I think the couple questions that came to my mind within this episode was the first one of, thankfully, your uh, thoughts on a particular character now being more of a mainstay, of Mouse being part of the principal office and helping out Dot and Enzo with the business and mainframe.
Yeah, no, I like Mouse, and I'm glad she's a bigger part of the show now. Also, Megabyte is finally actually a villain.
Yeah, it's good to sort of hear your thoughts that Megabyte's kind of come into his own being more of a villain. I think the question that I have for you is your thoughts on Hexadecimal.
I love Hex because I just A, it's a super cool design, and B, she's just she's just so much fun on screen. And like her
Okay.
getting like injured in this or whatever, and well,
Yeah. And again, by her own hubris.
yeah,
Just the case of she has a big flippin' gun that she powers and shoots. Megabyte sort of mentions, hey, don't destroy the principal office. It's like, oh, sweetie, you have your fun. Let me have mine.
yeah. So we'll see what happens with her recovery in the next few episodes.
Yeah. Huh.
So until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.